What's up, Scorpio? This energy is intense. Like someone cannot get you out of their head no matter what they do. Um, they try to distract themselves. They try to act like they don't care, but it's not working. You're in their thoughts all the time, in their dreams, in their silence. Scorpio, this person is obsessed with your energy. The way you made them feel, the way you walked away, it's driving them crazy. They're watching, thinking, replaying everything, and realizing they can't replace you. This isn't just love anymore. This is something deeper, something they can't escape. Um, Trust your intuition and let's get into your reading. Okay, so I feel like you are in this butterfly energy and this is beautiful. This is a beautiful transformation and I feel with this energy because there's so much blue, white and orange that you are in the energy of a passionate truth seeker at the moment. You are very enthusiastic and creative in seeking truth. You are illuminating your truth. You're starting to integrate the truth of who you are, the truth of this journey. You're understanding what needs to shift and transform within the heart. That is beautiful energy. And we can see here in your current energies with this Nine of Pentacles, and it's called the Nine of Crystals in this deck, but of course it is the Nine of Pentacles, that you are feeling very abundant, you're feeling very balanced in the power of your solitude, and you know you have been receiving a lot of clarity. I love how this Queen of Swords energy, she is grasping that truth, she is moving forward at a rapid pace. Your journey has suddenly stepped up a level. You've been doing a tremendous amount of inner work. However, I'm really drawn to this card and this single cup here. The Eight of Cups is about going on that inner journey, that inner reflection, moving away from one thing, but eight is the number of infinity, so it's something you're going to come back to. You're looking at water in this card, and there's that very galactic, kind of planetary vibe going on, self, like you're seeking high guidance. But with that cup, these two cups behind her, I feel like you have somewhat turned your back on the connection, but I'm hearing this isn't for surrender. This is just a need to step away, and it's not for surrender because you still can't face the connection. You're taking your power back, but you're not understanding that the real power is being able to be comfortable and safe in facing the connection and allowing yourself to be vulnerable. So, this indicates you don't feel strong enough to face it at this time, but you are on the right track. You're going through this beautiful transformation. You're in your own power. You're standing firm. You're reflecting on your emotional nature. You're understanding the truth of yourself in this connection. And you are moving forward very, very powerfully. Your person, I mean, they're getting there. They're in this dragonfly energy. And, for me, the dragonfly is all about skimming the surface of the water, skimming the surface of emotion. They're not allowing themselves to plunge in deep and really have the same level and depth of inner reflection that you are capable of. But we have got the devil reversed here. This does suggest that they are learning. They're releasing codependent behaviors. They're aware of this codependency within themselves. They're aware that they need to make changes. This could also be someone that's overcoming addiction, just letting go of what doesn't serve them, but they are still feeling defensive, they don't feel comfortable and safe at this time, even though they're very reflective, and I feel like they are contemplating the kind of divine or spiritual energies. This is definitely someone that's waking up. They're also going through a period of grief and loss, and I'm hearing this feels like a bit of a black hole that was just draining them of energy at the moment. So, I do feel like there's been a big shift in your person, but as I said, they're unable or reluctant to really dig deep into the truth in their emotions like you at the moment. They're kind of more on a surface level, but they are moving in the right direction. They're listening to their higher self a bit more, even though they're still very cagey and uncertain about that. They don't fully trust, they don't fully feel safe, and they're definitely going through a period of grief, loss, resentment, rejection, disappointment. This could be from another connection, that's come to a close somehow. The otter energy as the connecting energy is really beautiful for me. There's this is massive heart, solar plexus, and throat chakras. There's that, this suggests that both parties have been triggered hard and they've done the work and responded to these triggers. And that's very much what we're seeing in their connection. They're coming out of the dark and into the light. So there's definitely rapid ascension progress for this. There's this twin flame couple or this soulmate couple with the Page of Cups in reverse. It does appear that communication has ground to a halt, that there hasn't been, the kind of heartfelt affection existing between them. And this is such an interesting card. We see this couple here with another gentleman above them, and he's drinking from the cup, and they look pretty annoyed about that. So this suggests to me that a third party has been draining the power, love in this connection, and that could have also come to a close. For some of you, it may be on your person's side, which is why we're seeing this grief here. But either way, there's definitely been a halt in communication between these two as far as the current energies are concerned. And it seems that that's valid and worthwhile because, as I said, both of them are going through a very transformative process right now. And your person is definitely kind of grieving some kind of loss and dwelling on something that's bringing them a lot of pain, but is also pushing them toward a powerful change. They're moving out of distorted love energy, and you are moving into self love energy. You're not quite there yet, but you are being bold and brave, and you are moving in the right direction. In terms how they're thinking and feeling about the connection, we've got the 10 of cups too. This is really beautiful. You're really stepping into your power, and even though I said up here, you're not quite ready to face the connection yet, you're not ready to be truly vulnerable and authentic. You're feeling like you want to be, but I feel like you may have been in this energy of wanting to stand in your own power, to completely move away from your person, to just let them go. And I feel like you've turned a corner and recognized that isn't a healthy thing to do. And this is what's really bringing you so much confidence and strength. You're facing your fear, and the fear is, of course, loss, abandonment, rejection, which is why we turn away from them in the first place. So you are embracing, and I really feel like this spread, this couple that we're referring to, are actually in union energies because as we move towards union energies, everyone starts to get doubts. All of the unresolved shadow aspects that we need to face start coming to the surface, bubbling up to the surface to be resolved because we're almost there. I feel like this is why you've been pushed out of balance temporarily and turned your back, but now you recognize that you're going to face union. You're not going to run away from it or move away from it. You're going to stay, you're going to be in your power, you're going to grasp that wand, hold that torch firm, you're trusting your intuition. So you are feeling very strongly, very, very loving towards your person, even though there's still some fear rippling under the surface. There's still this swords energy. There's still this kind of logical mind asserting itself and telling us you're being a bit of a doormat, but you're pushing that back down now with love and reminding yourself that that's just fear speaking. Your person is feeling much better after releasing this devil energy. After moving into awareness of their codependent nature, they're now making decisions for something more, but they're creating a new way forward, even though there's still work to be done here. That intentional, mindful shift of, I know what's wrong now, I'm seeing the error of my ways, has allowed them to create this new beginning. And with justice in reverse here, with the 7 of wands as well, it does feel like something karmic has come to an end. They're feeling like they've closed out some important cycles. This is also it's interesting with this 7 of wands. As I said, it can be a very defensive energy, but this card's a contradiction of the traditional meaning because even though it looks like this person is potentially under attack from these 7 wands coming at them, they're very zen and very calm. So I feel like they still are a bit apprehensive, but they're trying their hardest to stay calm and peaceful in the face of all of this kind of karma. I mean, they're sad, that's for sure, but they're certainly letting go of their need for conflict and confrontation. They're being much calmer now in their response. They are feeling somewhat competitive, and I feel like, this is a competition with themselves. And again, this is a transient energy. This is just that inner conflict. We've got two fives here, and fives are always about change, transition, high learning. And it was really interesting, as I said, that traditional symbology of this card is competition. But what you actually see here, rather than the men fighting with the wands, is they're all clamoring to reach the fire, to reach the light. And I feel like this is the inner conflict. This card represents the various aspects of themselves are kind of, still confused about which way is the right forward.
Yeah, yeah, got this one here that's reaching for the light, another one behind it, and others are kind of wondering, do I want to go that way? So I think this is really representative of the inner conflict that they're still experiencing and implies because they are going through this transformative cycle, still not feeling great. The connecting energy here is the Seven of Wands. This is really interesting, but in this deck, this is really powerful. No one's being defensive, okay? This person is super confident. Yeah. They don't feel like they've got anything to defend, though. It's almost like they've won the fight. And I feel like that's the shift that these two have been through. Yeah. They've kind of, with you up here being nervous about facing the connection and then changing your mind and mood, like, now I'm gonna face this. And the same for your person, especially with this 3 of wands here for your person, even though your person is still a bit more conflicted and a few steps behind, there's this idea now I've got my foot on those 6 wands, 6 being the number of love, 7 the number of the divine. They're holding it, they're pulling themselves into alignment with that divine journey and choosing love. So, this feels like both counterparts finally at least having reached a conclusion that I want my counterpart. There's still work to be done, definitely. If your person, as I said, they're shifting and it's you as well. These are transformative energies, but they are moving into union and reduced because both parties are now asserting their free will and thinking, okay, I think I'm ready to do this. In terms of what is shifting, you need to be very careful, okay? And I feel like in your attempt to stay zen, to stay calm, to stay in your power, you don't want to turn your back too far away from your person. We've got the Eight of Pentacles in reverse here, and I'm feeling like this is, you know, this is a false sense of mastery. That's how it's coming through for me. And it's this part of you saying, "I'm good, I'm balanced, I'm in my space," because that's what you want to believe, rather than being accountable for and responsible for the shadow aspects that still need to be released. There's still work here to be done. And, again, we've got the hermit here. This knight is this very independent energy. This is the power of solitude. You're working very hard to listen to your inner guidance, to trust your own intuition, to stay balanced and calm. But we've got the Five of Wands in reverse for you here. You're not focusing on that inner conflict. You're trying to avoid it. You're focusing on what's good. You're focusing on all the positive things, but you're being maybe a little bit too resilient and pushing away the shadows that are coming up for healing. And this is just going to delay things. So there is a warning here that you need to face that inner conflict and ask yourself, what is trying to teach me? True strength isn't in ignoring anything negative about ourselves. It's in facing it head on and knowing that we can bounce back, that we can connect with that pain, work through it, release it, and bounce back. So I feel like you are in this energy of just be still, just be calm, just hold your space, keep it all positive, keep it all light, but really you're at war with yourself. And the fact that you were, not quite ready to face things up here and you're, in that indecision, I don't want to face the connection. Yes, I do. I'm moving away. No, I'm not. I'm just going to stay in my power. That inner conflict needs to be addressed. The fears that create that inner conflict need to be addressed. I feel like you're working very hard just to stay in the same place, but you're not actually doing the work to help move this forward.
To help you release those shadow aspects, to address the fears, what your person really is waking up. I mean, this is so powerful. From releasing this devil energy, we have judgment, and this is our true self being called and, ascending, coming into the light.
However, with the magician in reverse here, I feel like even though their soul is being called, there is going to be a period of, not trusting in their own divinity. That inner conflict rate is true, and the magician in reverse suggests it. Well, yeah, I'm kind of coming to terms with this idea that I'm a spiritual being in a human body. I'm coming to terms with all of this beautiful spiritual journey, but I'm not trusting in my own power, not trusting in my own mastery, in my own divinity. I'm not trusting that I really have the power to kind of create what I want out of this situation. The Nine of Swords and the Queen of Swords in reverse, it's a double-edged sword. The Nine of Swords reveals that, they're moving past some anxiety, they're finding some peace, they're letting go of some kind of nightmare that they were experiencing with this black hole of pain that's been draining them up here. But with the Queen of Swords in reverse and letting go, and facing the truth, they're coming to terms with a lot of anger. There's gonna be a period of feeling absolutely furious. This is kind of like, when you get through the other side of the tunnel and you look back and you look at what's happened and think, "Oh my god, I can't believe that happened to me." And now that you're out of shock, you're out of panic, you've moved away from that trauma of the situation, you have time to reflect, and this is them doing that and getting angry, feeling really bitter, you know, resentful. So they're moving away from sadness and grief to, like, bitterness and resentment. So both parties have some healing left to do. The connecting energy is so here, is beautiful. It's the 9 of wands. It's, "I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up," but also it's not completion. It's the step before completion. Like I said, these are union energies. And what's really interesting here, we've had this woman, she's still defensive. She's not ready to come forward into unity, the circle. And but she's also, this card is about endurance. It's about not giving up. So I do feel like both of these counterparts are at the final hurdle. They're ready to move forward in a really powerful, powerful way. These are really lovely energies. They've just still got a few things to overcome. So this is allow the fears to come up, don't squash them down and pretend they're not there. If you've been thinking, "Oh, I don't know if I do want to be with them," really, that's fear speaking because we love them really, but you're frightened of them rejecting you again. You're frightened for them leaving again. This is fear that's coming up and you just need to face it. You just need to ask, what can these feelings teach me? What do I need to know about this? By all means, stay in your Zen mode. That's the best place to have that conversation with yourself. But, you know, I feel like you're making it all fluff and light when you need to address the dark empathy, gentleness, and insight. Okay, so I feel like you need to be kinder to yourself. This empathy and gentility need to be brought inwards. This is about nurturing yourself, and I feel this is the energy you're in, but that means forgiving yourself for having fear and shadow aspects rather than ignoring them. Justice, fierce, and commitment. She who battles, and for me, this is about facing that inner conflict like your person is doing. And here, when we've got future choice and judgment, she who divines, this is about trusting in your own inner knowing. I feel like you've been receiving guidance and messages about how this connection is moving forward. You're hearing the term union and you're not trusting it. You're not believing it, and you know this. You need to trust yourself above all else. You don't, when you're coming to readings to get this information, obviously it's affirming and it's reassuring and it's just affirming what you already know. But then there'll come a point in your journey when you just trust you and you don't need to seek this kind of guidance. And that's always the goal. And with she who calms, stillness, purity, and quiet is beautiful. This has come up over that hermit or serenity card. There's an owl here, which indicates wisdom. And in that stillness is where you actually find that calm and quiet, that purity and truth, and that access to the high wisdom that's going to allow you to release these final, really difficult aspects of shadow self that you need to go to battle with. Yeah, you ready to do that? And with she who questions your person. This is so interesting given that they're awakening and coming to terms with spirit, curiosity, destiny, and search. They've got a lot of questions now that they've finally accepted the soulful nature of this connection. Now that they've finally come to terms with this idea that they're a spiritual being, they're doing a lot of research. They're getting curious. They're asking questions, and this knowing is giving them a lot of confidence. It's giving a lot of drive to move forward. Suddenly they feel a bit more radiant, they feel a bit more real, they feel like they have purpose. They're coming out of the dark and into the light, and it feels good, and they long for this. She who yearns, they long to trust their intuition. I feel like they've been sorry, like they've been out of sync with it for a long time, and they were ready to come back into balance. All of a sudden, they've got this desire to, really move forward with this spiritual path. But as I said, with this Queen of Wands, this bitterness, this resentment, if this is regret, she who regrets, there's a battle. They may have perceived themselves as victorious, but it's left them feeling very bitter. So, this is an energy that they really need to work through at the moment to release. And you're going to need to lovingly allow them the time to do that. As I said, they may not be communicative at the moment. Very independent energies here down that connecting center. Okay, but you know, neither party is giving up. Both are committed to this now. Both are wanting this. Both are aware and have made a decision. We've got hope for you. We've got clarity and we've got acceptance. And for your person, we've got achievement, restore, and balance. These are really beautiful energies. I feel like you don't know what you've probably not watched these readings for ages, but you've been getting all of these union messages, and maybe you just needed that confirmation. You needed that affirmation. Your intuition is clear. It's crystal clear right now. You're trusting. That's why you have this clarity here. You know what's coming. You're connecting with your own higher truth. I'm really guided how these are very similar energies. You've got the moths here, the symbol of transformation, of light and the dark coming, towards the light. And the colors are the same, blue and oranges, okay? This is a passionate, passionate, passionate evolution for you. And you're trusting in your divine faith. You're trusting. You've got faith and you've accepted yourself now. You just need to fully surrender to the journey. And I feel like you're on the cusp of that. Your person should allow themselves to feel proud. It is an achievement. They have released this codependency finally. Even though it's hurting and they're in pain, they have to trust now in this period of restoration and bringing themselves back into balance. They have to trust that that's coming and that they're able to achieve that. They're ready. So, definitely a period of beautiful shifts for you too. The Courage Peony, Child of the Cosmos, All Paths Lead Home, and Activated Earth. And for your person, Surrender to the Sweetness, Earth Pulsing, Double Mission. We've got 5 here, but I'm going to keep them both, Inner Earth and Jump In. So, to Courageous Peony, multifaceted, unique nature. Let yourself be seen. This is about coming out of your hermit mode. I know you've been focused on yourself, and that's a good place to be, but you need to come out of your solitude and start shining your light. This is a good time to reconnect with friends, like minded souls, perhaps revisit spiritual groups you've not been to in a while, to get outdoors as well and connect with nature in a more powerful way. You need now to start allowing yourself to be seen and heard in this new energy. Intelligence of the universe lies within you, child of the cosmos. And I feel you've connected with this very deeply. As I said, this beautiful truth download and trusting that all paths lead home. There's no right or wrong way. Just keep following your true north, your intuition. And with this activated, I think there's power places, there's ley lines, trust where you're led. If you've been thinking of taking yourself for a walk, to meditate outdoors somewhere, you already know where to go. Trust it. There's some kind of beautiful activation that's going to be available to you when you hit the right spot, and you can trust your own intuition to guide you there. This is a beautiful upgrade and even another upgrade. And I'm hearing thinking, really, I'm going to feel even better than I do now. And the answer is yes, you are. Your person, now that they've stepped out of this codependency and they're moving through this grief, we see them surrendering to pleasure again, surrendering to joy, to being carefree. It says here Venus energy makes love to life. We see them rediscovering their drive to live and their drive to love. Pulse of the Mother Earth, slow down and take time in nature. So, very similar guidance here for the pair of them. They need to get outdoors. And this double mission, light worker, star seeds, serve the world by being you. And I think your person, having just come to terms with their spirituality, hasn't perhaps considered that their spiritual journey is a tremendous asset to them in terms of their life mission and purpose. That they are indeed a light worker. And it says here very much, a star seed. This is someone that's deeply connected, not just to the earthly realms, but to much higher dimensions as well. They're more powerful than they realize. They're questioning their own divinity, but they've got a powerful mission here. And I feel like they're shifting into awareness of that. Inner Earth, you'll survive this, and these are new solutions and beginnings. Everything's starting over for you, and we've also got jump in Andromedan energy, adventure, and say yes to change. Be bold, be brave, dive into that. We've got an eye here, diving into her own truth and this new inner world that you can now see ahead of you. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you for this reading. Um, Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I really appreciate it. You all mean a lot. And I'll catch you in the next one. Take care, okay? Bye bye.